The Florida Gators closer to Georgia than we thought. I'm Dylan Hildreth. This is the Dylan Hildreth Show. Now, as we saw last weekend, Georgia just absolutely laid waste to Oregon. And for everybody saying that it was shocking that that happened, either had way too much hype in Oregon or never watched college football. It, I mean, the defending national champions, they're never going to fall off on defense. It's just not going to be a thing at Georgia. And the offense brought a lot of people back on top of adding more to the weaponry with some guys coming back from injury. And Georgia just laid waste to Oregon. Again, wasn't surprised by that at all. Now, what really surprised me was the nightcap with Florida and Utah. I had a feeling Florida would stay in the game, at least for the first three quarters. I did not expect Florida to actually come out and win that game, especially in that uh, late high pressure situation like that. At least not with game one against a well coached, good Utah team. Now, I think this speaks to how much wasted potential there was at Florida with under Dan Mullen and how good Billy Napier is as the head coach. And the big difference in Florida with Anthony Richardson under center, how dynamic he is and what he is able to bring to this offense and have the ability to make something out of nothing. And Utah is as well coached as you're going to see. I mean, take a look at the numbers here. I mean, Utah, 3 penalties for 15 yards the entire game. It, I mean, well coached. And kind of looking at the team stats, they kind of favor Utah a little bit, but it's close as the game was. And the ability to for Florida to not cave under the pressure is quite astounding, especially given their recent history of just completely collapsing on themselves. And as a Georgia fan, seeing that and seeing how good Anthony Richardson has the potential to be, especially by the time we meet him in Jacksonville, that's going to be a game, folks. That is not going to be a turn it off at halftime and go play with the kids kind of game. This is going to go down to the wire. And I do not trust Stetson Bennett in the fourth quarter having to make a play to win the game. And when he has played a quarterback and a team that is equal, at least talent wise, he has a tendency to fold. And the only reason why that didn't happen in the national championship game is because Alabama was completely depleted at the wide receiver position. And yeah, I know it happens. It's a part of the game. However, you have to be real. And we're on to a new season. And it's very unlikely Alabama's going to have that issue again. And seeing how well Napier has done so quickly at Florida, they're going to be somebody that Georgia's going to have to deal with as soon as this year. And it's going to be a wake-up call for Kirby Smart, and it may be a wake-up call he's not going to be able to bounce back from if Anthony Richardson and Billy Napier and that Florida Gators team puts it all together by the time that the world's largest outdoor cocktail party happens. Because I don't see anybody beating Florida after watching what they did with Utah. Other than it's going to come down to Florida and Georgia in the SEC East. And yes, I am putting Florida as a legitimate contender in the East. Now, I see that, and I understand Stetson Bennett won a national championship. No. The running game, the defense, that won a national championship game. That doesn't change the fact that when the pressure actually reaches its hottest point, Stetson folds. He's going to do it again. And Georgia's going to waste away another great defense, another great offensive weapon system, and another season because they cannot get the quarterback position right. When you tell me that Jake Fromm is better than Justin Fields, no. When you tell me JT Daniels isn't as good as Stetson Bennett, no. I tend to no longer believe you when you tell me Stetson Bennett is the best option at quarterback. I know he had a great game. It's against Oregon, a rebuilding, completely depleted Oregon with a first-time head coach who was in that Georgia program, who Kirby Smart knows, against the quarterback who has never, ever been good against Georgia. I'm not impressed. It's exactly what I expected. The secondary is a lot better than it was last year. The defense, I think it's going to be a bit more balanced and not so reliant on the front seven. And it's still going to be just as good as it was last year. Maybe not quite as flashy, but it's still a great defense. Brock Bowers is still there. They got tight ends and wide receivers up the wazoo. They got running backs up the wazoo. Line is still just fine. But there's only so long until you can ride with a quarterback like Stetson Bennett until it bites you right in the ass. We saw this against Florida in 2020, against Alabama twice. And to sit there and just kind of forget about that and think that we're just going to ride into Atlanta, if we even get there, like, we're just fine. I think Georgia will win the SEC East still, but there is no avenue for Georgia to beat Alabama. I got my thoughts on how Ohio State and Michigan did. That'll be a separate video that will be up in the next day or so. But the SEC East just got very, very interesting. That's all I got for you today in this video. I will see you next time on the Dylan Hilder Show. Make sure to like and subscribe. Let me know, is Florida the real deal? Am I overcritical about Stetson Bennett? Let me know in the comments. Later.